Hey, it's your boy Easy, and on today's episode of Easy Opens, we're going to be taking a look at the 2017 San Diego Comic-Con exclusive NECA Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles box set based on the 1987 animated series Raphael action figure. So let's go ahead and get this figure free from its cool but rude plastic prison. Take a look and see what we think about this Raphael action figure. So here we have Raphael fresh out the box with all of his accessories. Now if you don't know, this set of figures was based on the 87 animated series, but as far as the Turtles are concerned, I think it was more specifically based on their how they looked in the intro to the cartoon and season 1 of the cartoon. Now those two things specifically are a lot darker and just a little bit more serious than how they appear in later seasons of the show, where they get a little bit more cartoony and animated and jokey and just a lot less serious. And I am so glad they did that, because this is one of my favorite versions of the Turtles. I'm really glad that NECA decided to immortalize that version of the Turtles in plastic for my shelf. And I'm really happy about that, and they did an excellent job. But before we get into the figure itself, let's go ahead and talk about the accessories. So this box set comes with a ton of accessories. All of the Turtles' hands are interchangeable with one another. So what I did was I took the character-specific accessories and then whichever accessories were closest in proximity to said character for this review. So let's go ahead and start with Raphael's signature weapon, his sai. Also, I should probably mention that before we talk about this, not only are the accessories repaints from the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive arcade set of the Turtles that came out last year, every one of the figures are repaints of those figures. But regardless, let's go ahead and get into this. These sais look really cool. I'm going to be honest, whenever I first picked the figure up and started playing with it and photographing it and stuff, I wasn't too happy with them, and in my recollection, I recalled them being a little bit more exaggerated than this, just like kind of flimsy and just kind of like very haphazardly done for some reason. But then when I went back to actually talk about the accessories and take photos of them, I realized that they're a little tighter than I thought they were, and I'm actually a lot more happy with them than what I recall seeing on the arcade set. Because when I think about the arcade set, it just seemed like they were a little bit more like rounded, if that makes any sense. I don't know, but regardless, these are actually not as bad as I recall them being. Another accessory that you might not think would be character specific, but based on the inspiration for these particular Turtles actually is the slice of pizza that is taken from the pizza box that we saw in the Mikey review. It had a pizza slice missing, and it's represented here with this figure because in the intro of the show, Raphael does take a slice of pizza and then throw the rest of it at the camera. But he does it with his sai, and he puts it on his sai, and it's kind of cool. So this slice of pizza actually has a hole that you can slide over the pointy end of the sai and have it just hanging there for him to do whatever with. So that's really awesome. That's really neat, and it's a fun little detail they didn't have to include, which is rad, and I really like that a lot. Probably not going to get a lot of use out of it, but still it's really nice to have that there, and I'd rather have it than not have it. So Raphael also does come with another open Turtlecom. Now this one we saw in my Leonardo review. It's the same Turtlecom, highly detailed, and looks really rad, so I have no complaints about these Turtlecoms. They're fantastic. And then the sets of hands that were closest to Raphael were his pointy finger. So this is really cool. You can use him to hold a slice of pizza, and you can use him to make, like, you know, a funny joke kind of photo if you want. Like, you can get a little bit of mileage out of these hands. So again, no complaints about these hands. And again, they're all interchangeable, so you can put them with whatever turtle you want to for whatever photo you're trying to get. And that's really rad that they included all of those and made them interchangeable with all the Turtles. Super all about that. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the sculpt of this figure. Now, as I mentioned before, these are repaints of the NECA arcade set that they released last year at San Diego Comic-Con, and these are a fantastic sculpt. Like, I have no complaints. They have just the right amount of weight to them that make them feel worthwhile and like sturdy, and that you're getting your money's worth. And the detail on the shell and the muscular definition throughout is pretty cool. Like it's not like hyper detailed, but then again, it's not supposed to be, and it doesn't have to be, because it's representing the cartoon, which was detailed, but like you know, it wasn't like so meticulous that you could see the scales on their skin kind of detail, which we don't need here. But what we do get is some wrinkles in the feet, and you get a bunch of lines which indicate where the musculature is and the separation there. You get a lot of detail on the belt, just with different lines. It's subtle, but it's impactful enough to where it makes the character stand out a little bit more. Now, what I mentioned in the Michelangelo review is that I started to notice that they each have the different grimace that I didn't look up to see if their grimaces match their original Playmates action figure counterparts' grimaces, but nevertheless, whatever's here is still representative of that look, and it's a nice little homage that I find like really neat, and that Neca didn't have to do that. They could have given them all kinds of faces, but I'm really glad they chose to, you know, pay a little homage to what's come before. And with Raphael, he's got the grimace where he's showing his teeth on the right side of his mouth, and that's really cool. So I'm a big fan of that. These figures stand at 5.5 inches tall, which is great because they're slightly shorter than your average 6-inch action figure, which is what they should be, because they're supposed to be a little shorter than a normal 6-foot-tall human being. And that means that they're going to go really well with most of the figures you will have in your 1/12 scale 6-inch action figure collection. Speaking of that, let's go ahead and take a look and see how Raphael measures up to some other figures that you might have in your collection. Alright, so here he is with the knockoff NECA Raphael action figure, and here he is with the black and white NECA Mirage Raphael action figure. Here he is with the SH Figuarts Raphael action figure based off the same animated series, and here he is with the Playmates Classics Raphael action figure, also based off the same animated series. Here he is with DC Collectibles Batman the Animated Series Batman action figure, and Marvel Legends Wolverine. Here he is with Masters of the Universe Classics He-Man and the Soda Vega figure. Here he is with the SH Figuarts Kamen Rider Excel figure and Figma's Zelda figure. And finally, here he is with Playmates Classics, Rocksteady, and Bebop action figures. So let's take a look at the paint on Raphael. So for the most part, this is really rad. Like, everything is just like the other turtles. It's a darker green. It does have the even darker colors on the back half of the figure. So the legs, the arms, the head, and the bandanas all have a slightly darker tone of color on the back half, which is fine. I know a lot of people have a problem with it. Doesn't bother me at all, but it's definitely there. All the paint is pretty good on mine, except there's a little bit of slop when you get to the belt with his initial on it. But then, other than that, the most egregious thing is there's a little bit of red paint that got on his the top of his head from his bandana. It's not the end of the world, but it's still there, and it's kind of glaring. But you know, that's an easy fix. Other than that, the paint is great, and I have no real complaints here.
Alright, so let's take a look at the articulation you're going to get out of this Raphael action figure. So let's start with the head. So the head is on a ball joint, so you're going to get 360 rotation at the neck. You can get Raphael to look up this high and down this low. His head is also, well, his neck is also on another ball joint, so you get a little bit of wiggle room there, so that helps a little bit. It's better than not having it. Let's see, moving on to the arms, 360 rotation at the shoulders. You can get the arms to go up this far, and they will go out this far, and they go down that far. He has 360 rotation at the bicep, as well as the forearm, or the elbow I should say, and he does only have a single jointed elbow. So you're only going to get that much movement out of that. Now you have 360 rotation at the wrist as well, because the hands are removable, and these particular standard hands that Raphael comes with has up and down movement in the wrists. So there's that, and you can change these hands out with any of the other turtles if you wanted to. Moving on to his legs. His legs will go out this far, and they will go back this far. Due to the shell, they are impeded, but he does have double jointed knees, and he does have 360 rotation at the ankle because it's on a pivot joint, so you get some extra movement there as well. And he has 360 rotation at the thigh or the groin, or whatever you want to call it, joint, and yeah, you can move him there too. So let's see, what else do we have? Oh, and then he has a slight, I don't know if you can see it in this one. I was able to get it in some of the other reviews, but the lighting's not working for me here. But he does have a separation underneath the shell that gives him a little bit of wiggle room, and that helps out a lot when you're trying to get balance for some poses you're trying to do with the figure. And other than that, that's pretty much all the articulation you're going to get out of this Raphael figure.
All right, so final thoughts on this figure. I think this figure is great. As I said in my other reviews, these are excellent figures. They are a really great representation of the season 1 intro of the Turtles animated series from 1987, and I have no real complaints that are very major. Most of my complaints are very minor. Now, starting off with the fact that there are no specific holsters for Raphael's size. Like, he can't put his weapons anywhere. Now, you can argue that you can slide the size to his side, on the side of his belt, between his shell, his front shell and his back shell. Like, you can kind of fit him in there, and that doesn't look bad. And in reality, that might be where he would actually do it. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if he had it there. But it works, but it's not like, it's more of a workaround as opposed to like something that was intended. So that's a minor nitpick. But other than that, the only other thing that still stands throughout all these figures is the fact that I think that they could have made the ankle articulation a little better to get more use out of it, but I am still glad that what's there is there, because that's better than nothing. But still, that's not bad considering they could have just given us a straight leg. So I'm still glad that we got what we got. But again, just to reiterate, this figure is great, and all the figures so far that I've reviewed have been fantastic. I highly recommend these figures if you can get them in the box set. Definitely do that. If not, if you got to get the Turtles individually, go that route. Whatever you got to do. If you're a Turtles fan, even if you just casually like action figures, these are great figures to have in your collection. They look fantastic, and they are definitely gonna be my standard Turtle figures that I go to, and I'm really glad to have these on my shelf and encourage you to do the same. And if you're looking for the definitive Turtles to have in your action figure collection, then I would say look no further than Neca's take on the 1987 animated series versions of these figures. Alright, well that's going to do it for me today. Thanks so much for watching, and if you like this video, please hit that like button, and if you want to see more of me, go ahead and hit that subscribe button as well. And if for some weird reason you want to hear more from me, be sure to check out my other podcasts, where I actually talk about the Ninja Turtles with a friend every other week on our podcast called Turtle Soup. I also have a music podcast called Daydream Nation, where a friend and I talk about a record every week. And yeah, so if you are interested in any of those, check in the description below for more information on those shows if you're interested. Either way, be sure to check back here often for more opening goodness right here on Easy Opens. Else time.